Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this gathering of SSUC, Spiritual Seekers United in Community. We're so glad that you're joining us today, and we welcome you to this gathering of May the 2nd, 2021. Welcome to those of you joining us from the Edmonton area who, like us, join us on Treaty 6 territory. Perhaps you're in Saskatoon, also Treaty 6 land. We gather in a place with great gratitude that wherever we happen to be joining from, we take a moment to give gratitude to the land, to the peoples, to the First Nations with whom we wish to partner and reconcile as we work toward a future relationship that is positive and forward-moving. You may be also joining us from lots of other different places, and we welcome you wherever you happen to be today, and know that you share gratitude for the land that you reside. We do, of course, welcome the entire human family, not only when we gather here in person at SSUC, but in this digital community. We recognize that we are all people, and we welcome the whole human family, all ages, all stages, all colors and sizes, all cultures and genders, all sexualities and abilities, all religions and traditions. And we know that what unites us is our desire to be community with one another, to create community where we all belong. And so wherever you happen to be joining us and whatever time it is where you are, we hope that you feel a sense of belonging and that you might be with us for this next time, fully a part of this online community. Along with my teammate Nancy Steves, we are joined by Deb and Catherine and Dawn, our musicians, by Pam and Janice, our singers, and by Joseph and Noah, our tech team today. As we've set a simple table, and as we prepare for the meal, in whatever ways that means, we join together at our table as we continue to focus ourselves and to learn dinner table wisdom. As we take a moment to do that, we light our candles with each other. We invite you, as always, if you have a candle, to light it with us so that we might be joined in this little ritual, that we might partake together in lighting a candle and knowing that it joins us together in a really special way, knowing that we all have our lights, our flames, our connection with each other. And so we light our candles now. No matter what is happening in your home, wherever you are, whatever's being said or sung here, we know that we can return our gaze to our candles, knowing that it can focus us, knowing that it is our spark of wisdom and our light of life in this community and across the miles, that this flame of love kindles within each of us. So we return our sights to our candle whenever we need that moment, that breath, that connection. And so now, as we've lit our candles, let's take a moment to open our hearts into the wisdom and into the time that we have together.
As we seek the light of better words, better ways, we strengthen our intentions to live in the world as it is in this moment and to set our intention on how it is that we are choosing to be in this world, in this time, in this life. And so we pray with one another, offering these words as a way of focusing our intentions on how it is we seek to live. we take this time to open ourselves to the wisdom of the senses, the wisdom of our stories, the wisdom of our tradition, the wisdom of our innermost selves. Let's commit to being open to inspire one another in our living so that we can make a difference and reflect our highest values. May we sense the sacredness in us, in each other, and in the wonder of our planet. May we be moved to shoulder one another's challenges, share each other's joys, and empower one another to live with love, respect, and compassion. In trust that healthy community gives us strength. May it be so.
I'm going to be reading from my book, Fry Bread, which was this year's recipient of the Cybert Medal. And it was illustrated by my friend and colleague, Juana Martinez Neal. And she got some great images of all different looking kinds of Native people, including some members of my own family. I'm an enrolled member of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, and I know that reading can be a good thing for all of us to escape all of the kind of things that we're experiencing right now. So I'm really excited to share this thing that took a lot of love and energy, and my kids are in it, and my family's in here, and I'm happy to share all of this with you. So let's get right into it. So this is Fry Bread, a Native American family story. Fry bread is food. Flour, salt, water, cornmeal, baking powder, perhaps milk, maybe sugar, all mixed together in a big bowl. Fry bread is shape. Hands mold the dough, flat like a pancake, round like a ball, or puffy like Nana's softest pillow. Fry bread is sound. The skillet clangs on the stove, the fire blazes from below. Drop the dough in the skillet. The bubbles sizzle and pop. Fry bread is color. Golden brown, tan or yellow, deep like coffee, sienna or earth. Light like snow and cream, warm like rays of sun. Fry bread is flavor. See beans or soup. Smell tacos, cheese, and vegetables. Delight in honey and jam. rise to discover what brings us together. Who's that right there? That's me. Fry bread is time. On weekends and holidays, supper or dinner, powwows and festivals, moments together with family and friends. Fry bread is art. Sculpture, landscape, portrait, our daily craft, shared from teacher to student, a cycle of heritage and fortune. Fry bread is history, the long walk, the stolen land, strangers in our own world, with unknown food, we made recipes from what we had. Fry bread is place. Alaska, Kansas, all the way to Maine, down to Delaware, on to Georgia, over to Oklahoma, that's where I'm from, Colorado, and California. Fry bread is nation. Abenaki, Apache, Arapaho, Ojibwe, Onondaga, Oglala Sioux, Narragansett, Navajo, Nipmuc, Seminole, Shoshone, Sac and Fox, hundreds and hundreds of tribes. Fry bread is everything. Round, flat, large, small, north, south, east, and west, brown, yellow, black, and white, familiar and foreign, old and new, we come together. Fry bread is us. We are still here. Elder and young, friend and neighbor. We strengthen each other to learn, change, and survive. Fry bread is you. That's the end of the book, but that's not the end of the story. So, in the back of the book, I include a recipe here. See, there's a picture of me here now with short hair. When we were making the book, I had much longer hair, and then I cut it. So this is me with my short hair, and here's a recipe in the back of the book. And then here's a picture of my grandma. She's my great aunt, but I call her my grandma because I never knew my grandma, so then she became my grandma. And so this is kind of her recipe for fry bread that I changed a little bit and made it more modern. I kind of changed some of the ingredients, but I encourage you to go out and do your own cooking this weekend or this week and challenge yourself to make something that you haven't made before. Maybe that could be something like fry bread. Well, I've enjoyed doing this story time with you. I hope you've learned something new. I've enjoyed reading with you, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing some people that are in my family. See, there's me. There's my son right here. Here's my baby. Here's my partner right there. There's my mom. Here's my little niece. And then some other people that we included in there too. So this was great for us to spend some time together and keep reading, and definitely go out and make something new and treat yourself to something that tastes really, really good. Bye-bye.
turns out, that, we'll pay a lot of money not to cook. Not to actually confront, a potato. What am I going to do with this? How do you cook it? And of course, if we're not careful, we're going to try to turn it, and I can't make it taste like those McDonald's French fries, no matter what I do. Because it's, now our whole sense of taste is skewed. When I started making biscuits at Tassajara, back in the 60s, they never came out right. And I tried, more butter, less butter, Crisco, different kinds of fats, eggs, without eggs, with water, with milk. I tried a lot of things, and, after 4 or 5, tries at biscuits, and they're not coming out right still, I thought, right compared to what? I realized that when I grew up, in my family, we made Pillsbury biscuits. Pillsbury, you took the can, hit it on the corner of the counter, twisted it open, took out the biscuits, put them on the pan, baked them. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I ought to just taste the biscuits of today, see what they're like. So I made biscuits again, and then, I tried one of my biscuits, and it was so good. It was buttery and flaky, and it kind of melted in your mouth. And it was wheaty. It actually had whole wheat flour, in it. And so it tasted like wheat, like the earth, like the sun, like the air, like water. There's like poetry again, There's the possibility of connection with life itself.
The one that they just made up?
And it's not just biscuits, of course, but it's, our lives. We start trying to make our lives look like Cosmopolitan magazine or something. I don't know. The sitcoms on television, who are those people? Or we, why would you want to be like them? Or, like what, and, you're supposed to have a smile and, have the right clothes. And then, finally you could, you could fit in or something, Are we going to have some standard to measure up to, or can we be the biscuit of today?
Today's wisdom from the table is about preparation, cooking, getting things ready. I'm probably not the best person to talk on this topic of cooking. I'm not terrible in the kitchen, but if left to my own devices, I'm the kind of cook that my family describes, and I quote, as frantic, intense, lacking the big picture. This isn't said out of malice, but just a loving and far too honest assessment of my skills. I asked, after all. When I do one thing at the counter, I find it difficult to have the pot simmering on the stove in the front of my mind. That is until it boils over, and I yell and I panic and I prove my family's descriptive words accurate. There's a story that there's a story of Jesus making an appearance to his friends. It's a fun imagining of a story that the writers placed at the setting of a seaside. And it's a little social justice teaching that acts as almost a coda to the whole Jesus story. Some of the disciples are fishing. And as soon as they bring their boats toward the shore, they see a fire burning. They see fish laid on it and bread there to eat. And as they get closer, they realize it's Jesus, and he invites them to bring some of the fish they've caught to add to the breakfast. It's the only meal that we read about where Jesus is the cook. He cooks them breakfast, and then the author uses the opportunity to turn it into a lesson. Jesus asks Peter, the one famous for not quite catching on to the lessons that Jesus ever taught. Peter, the one who famously denied knowing Jesus 3 times. Peter is at the center of this lesson, where Jesus asks him after breakfast 3 times if he loves him. And when Peter is adamant 3 times that he does, Jesus instructs him 3 times to do one thing: feed the people, tend to them, feed them, and love them. Literally, make breakfast for them if you have to. Metaphorically, teach people, care for them, love them, be with them. Whenever we cook, whenever we prepare a meal, whenever we provide food in whatever form for another person, this is what we're doing. This is the lesson being taught to Peter here 3 times. Whenever we cook, we are tending to another. We are loving them. Now, some of us are cooks and some of us aren't. Fair enough. And this isn't a day to say that homemade gourmet meals made at home 7 days a week is the only way to go. There's lots to be said for those days of ordering in and enjoying a meal that we don't have to cook. Dialing and getting a comfortable favorite delivered is also an act of love to ourselves and to others. But when we do make something, let's be honest, we know most of what we do in the kitchen is not the stuff of cooking shows. It is mundane. It's routine. It's constant. It's the day in, day out business of making dinner. The table we set today is not a fancy one. This is the everyday, easy to wipe down workaday table. We throw those placemats in the wash, we wipe them down, we hose off the table, and we start again. There is no show, there's no audience, just a few tired people looking as done as the overcooked chops. Each night's routine is much the same. The onions are sliced, the potatoes are peeled, the carrots, the celery are diced, and the meat is browned. There might be bread to slice, a salad to prepare, or rice to cook, but we know all these things because we've done them again and again. But in all of this, food historian Michael Symons writes, it endows human life with rhythm, which gets taken up in ritual, which grows into meaning. Cooks are the keepers of ritual and the makers of meaning. Ritual is all about meaningful repetition. It's about repeating those things that help us remember who we are and what we're about. So even in the mundane and boring, as in any ritual, there is a chance to learn something new about the task of meal making, or maybe about ourselves. Edward Espe Brown, who we heard from in the video a few moments ago, wrote a book a number of years ago called the Tassajara Bread Book. He shares a recipe for 3-layer cornbread. And this is what he says about it. He says, that's a great recipe, but that was not intentional at all. It was actually a mistake. Years ago, as he attempted to make cornbread, he had accidentally doubled the milk and the eggs required in the recipe, and as it turned out, it was actually better that way, with a cake-like layer on the bottom, a custardy layer in the middle, and crust on top. So he went with it. Let things come home to your heart and let your heart go out to things, Brown says. That kind of heart connection with the world is not something you get a recipe for. And so the lesson that gets taught to Peter gets taught in other ways. Feed people. Tend to them. Care for them and love them. Anthony DeMello writes of an old Sufi story. It goes like this. A student is having a hard time understanding the lessons of the tradition and asks the teacher, "Master, what can I do to live a more fulfilling life?" The Sufi master responds that the secret of life is to make wise decisions. The student, still inquiring, asks how to make wise decisions. And the master indicates that wise decisions are based on your experience in the world. The student, of course, doesn't let up and asks, how do I gain this experience? And the teacher says, poor decisions. In the kitchen, we'll make some wise decisions and we'll make some poor ones. It goes without saying. I, in my household, will never live down the time that as a young couple, new to the adventure of cooking, I decided to take the reins one day and decided on a whim to put apples in the Asian stir-fry. I don't know why. It sounded like a good idea at the time, but as soon as we took one taste, nope. Poor choice. But we can't worry about things like that, can we? In life, too, we'll make the wrong choices so that eventually we can make the right ones. And we go forward trying to be more ourselves. We try to share our good heart, our intentions, our warm feelings for the world and for others. And we'll probably learn along the way that apples go in some recipes and not in others. We make food for one another, and it isn't necessarily masterful or fabulous. All we do is seek to do something enjoyable, something simple, some way to nourish us, knowing we have just what we need, no more, no less, hopefully. And it seems always the time, as Kevin Maillard invites us in his book, Fry Bread, to embrace what our food says about our history, about our family, about what's important to us. But then to go beyond it just a little bit, beyond what we know how to do, beyond what we're good at, and wake up to the larger reality about ourselves and about the world. There is so much we don't know. There is much experience to be gained by trying a new recipe, in altering the old classics and making them our own, to just plain improvising and seeing what we come up with, even if it's a disaster. As Esme Brown says, what is the perfect biscuit anyway? When we just can't get it right, we have to ask, right compared to what? Maybe we can't recreate the way we tasted it in that perfect moment back in 2005. Maybe we can't get it to taste just the way Mom did. Maybe they just don't come out right. But the biscuits we make today are the biscuits in front of us. And so they are the ones that are here. They are the ones to enjoy. They are the ones that are just right. Even if you have to nibble around the burned bits or add a lot of air in your mouth to make them not quite so dense and dry. The ones before us are the ones that are just right. And so the invitation of the Zen chef becomes our invitation for our living too. Do we want our lives to be measured against the unattainable memory? Do we want to measure ourselves against an unrealistic dream, a false caricature, or some past or future imagined self? Probably not. Can we just be the biscuit of today? Right for this moment, just as we are. Gaining the experience of our poor decisions. I mean, let's face it, the best result might come from reading the recipe wrong, adding too much or too little, or flubbing up completely might just create something interesting and delicious. Can we be the biscuit of today without the fancy dinnerware? Without any flowers? Because who are we kidding? Who has the time and the energy and the money to put fresh flowers on their table every day? Can we be content with whatever we end up with when we sit down together? Because whatever way it turns out, the result is what we use to tend to each other. The result, no matter what it looks like, is what we use to care for each other and feed each other. And you know what? It's always enough.
I want to share a few invitations with you. First of all, to gather with us on Zoom in just a few moments, about 11:15 Mountain Time, to have a bit of conversation about our experience of dinner table wisdom preparations. You'll find the link on our website, and we invite you just to join us for an opportunity to go a little bit further in our conversations and thoughts about the theme of this morning. We also invite you to join us a week from Tuesday on May the 11th at 7 in the evening for a time of music and meditation, an hour or so of music, a meditation practice, a time to be still within ourselves, and an opportunity for us to name into the circle of those gathered the things that we are holding in our hearts that would be lighter if we were able to share them with one another. So please plan to join us a week from Tuesday. The leadership team is Gord Oakes Jr., Chris New, and myself. We look forward to sharing that time with you on Zoom. And we also want to express our gratitude for your continued support, joining us week by week on these online gatherings, joining us in the special offerings of educational times and special gatherings and times like our music and meditation. We're grateful for the gift and the support of your presence. We're also grateful for the gift and support of the ways in which you make possible what we do together as a community by sharing your time, your talent, your volunteer hours, your gifts and your skills, and also for those who are able, sharing of your financial support. You see on the screen the ways that you can offer that support, and we thank you for your continued and sustained support, which makes so much possible. As we come towards the close of our time with one another in this spiritual gathering, we sing those values that we seek to live, those values that we seek to put out into the world, which are our task and our trade. As we change our light, we seek to change our orientation toward the mundane, the mishaps, the miracles. Amid the routine, the rhythm, the ritual of life, may we make meaning as we go into all that this day, this week holds for us, in all of its extraordinary ordinariness. May we be the keepers of ritual, the makers of meaning, those who lighten the load for one another as we carry each other in our hearts, this day and always. May you be safe. May you be well until we're together again.